2 videos in 2 days. I'm in rare form. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and Bright. We were talking about Bright, and it was brought up to me for the millionth time the scale of the ambition I had going into that project, and this was brought up to me by someone who knew me then. But the way you might have heard about that, because it's been brought up to me thousands of times, especially now that people love to tell me the different various reasons they hate me. But I, at one point in an interview, in the run up to the release of Bright, after I'd made this big spec sale, one of the biggest spec sales in 15 years, I made this huge sale, and I said to Steve at Collider, a guy I really liked, I said, I think this could be my Star Wars. If it's made well, if it comes together well, I think this could be my Star Wars. Now, what I meant by that was actually really specific. What I meant by that was, I think this could be, I could have said my Underworld. What I meant by that was, I think this could have been a generative property. Something where many, many different stories can take place in this world, and it can be this big thing that births all these other things and inspires a sort of new style of filmmaking. Now, you have to keep in mind, this is when I had written Bright, and I had written Bright for the director, David Ayer, not because he asked me to, but because I was so inspired after seeing End of Watch. And then I was watching Lord of the Rings, and I was like, where are the black people? And then I was wondering, like, wait, so after this, like, big war, what happens to the orcs? They're just fucked? They're just fucked and leaderless, and it's just going to be chaos. And I thought, like, there have been things like Shadowrun, which kind of takes place in the future. There have been things that do fantasy now, but there hasn't really been anything that did it at the scale that Bright wanted to do it. And the thing you need to understand about my Bright versus the movie Bright is that I was doing Dirk Gently season 2. I was not involved even a little bit in the process of Bright. I never met Will Smith. I never got to go to set for Bright. I was showrunning Dirk. And I missed the dinner. And by that point, it had become really clear to me that David Ayer wanted to do something really different with the movie. And you can, if you're curious, find my original draft of Bright that was the big sale. You can find it online. What's not there is that I also pitched the world, where the story was going, all of the various things you'd see in the background. I did like a George Lucas pitch when I would talk about that script with people. And when I say George Lucas, I'm not saying I'm George Lucas and I'm this genius who did this thing. I mean, I really fleshed out the feeling of what it would be to watch Bright, because I loved that world and I thought it would be my Star Wars. But the script Bright and the movie Bright are significantly different. They are significantly different not only in what happens in them, but in the positioning of the various philosophies of the world. For instance, I mean, there's too many examples to list. The film is a completely different thing. It has crossover with the script, but the script was meant to be not about chosen ones. It was meant to be, in a post-magic world, what it's like to live with other races, to live with the knowledge that magic kind of exists. But at the end of the day, you got to pay rent. You got to fucking live your life. You got to get from here to there. You got to pay for gas. And I thought that would be really cool. And I thought, I can do this in a way that it can be character-based, it can be grounded, it could be like End of Watch in Lord of the Rings. And I was like, now that's something. And I wanted to make it about class. There's a race element in the script, but really it's about class, because the way orcs are regarded in different places is shown to be different. So there's this really interesting idea that, due to sort of the capitalist nature of the modern world, certain whole species, because of their roles in wars 1,000 years ago, are being bumped into different classes. And that plays out in race ways, but in the script it also plays out in philosophical ways. It plays out in the world. In the script it's like Zootopia, where they see a centaur girl jogging and there's lots of different races. Kills me, man. Kills me dead. The script, I had all these world building documents. I listed all the different races. The script is completely different. The villains in the movie are almost all entirely human. They're like shitty, evil Coen Brothers movie villains. The main female villain is this androgynous sort of LA fixer, almost like Philip Marlowe, mercenary con artist, Michael Mann. That's the vibe of the script. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can read the script. It's different than the movie. Yeah, I don't know if you'll like it better or different or worse. It's just very, very fucking different. The line "fairy lives don't matter today" is not in the script, but that's the whole third act is different. It's about a connection between two guys, and it's about trust, and it's about love, and it's about partnership. It's about, yes, race, but the orcs are not black people, for instance, in the script. And there's even a whole sort of scene that's cut regarding the orcs being what the relationship is of orcs socioculturally to various American human minorities. There's like a whole scene about that in the script that's not in the movie. But it's really interesting because, I forget his name, but I met that actor, that great actor, at an Oscar party in 2017, probably my last one. But I met him, and it was the first time I'd met him. And the first time I saw Bright, it was a total surprise for me. And you know what? I stand by that statement. I'm really proud of that script. I think Bright could have been a really big franchise in another world where things didn't play out differently. Or when things did play out differently. I'm proud of that script. And I stand by, in that video, I'm like manic and unmedicated and like going through it. At that point in my life, I was so depressed and I was at the top of my career, but I was going through so much other stuff. And Bright was such a hopeful moment because it was everything I'd been trying to do since Chronicle. Was I want to make something big. I want to inspire people with something new, right? You can see me try to do that again and again. American Ultra, I wanted that to be a franchise. Mr. Right, I wanted that to be a franchise. You see, whether you like these movies or not, you can see what I mean. They are original ideas that have dynamics in them and ideas in them that aren't in franchises right now. I mean, like, I think a romantic comedy action franchise would be fucking cool. I like that idea so much that I tried it twice to do Nick and Nora Charles as John Wick. I tried it twice. And originally, you know who was going to direct fucking Mr. Right? Chad and Dave, the guys who ended up making John Wick, but it just didn't come together that way. And I love Paco. And what's so funny is me working with Paco on Mr. Right led to me working with Paco on Dirk. And like, I had such a lucky career in so many ways, and I'm so grateful for it. But I just wanted to say, I think about that a lot, about that I said Bright would be my Star Wars. And I think about how people are like, oh, cringe. Oh, cringe. And it's like, no, if you're not in there trying to write your Star Wars, if you're not in there trying to write something with a philosophy of what you want it to be, beyond what it is, how you want it to make people feel, where you want it to go, then why are you writing? What are you doing? You're doing like a little picture. I'm not saying world build everything, but if something is your being John Malkovich, don't feel like an asshole for saying it's my being John Malkovich. Only the person listening to you who's being insecure will project on you that you're saying you're as good as Charlie Kaufman. Okay? And you can clarify and you can be humble, but if you're trying to write your being John Malkovich, if you're trying to write you're The Matrix, if you're trying to write your Noah Baumbach movie, your Stephen King story, your Scorsese, your Departed. Imagine what an asshole would sound like. Oh, I'm writing my Departed. Write it. Write it. Prove it. I tried to prove it with Bright. Screenwriting's a collaborative job. Other people had other ideas of what that movie should be. Didn't end up being my Star Wars. Although I did end up getting paid to write the sequel that will never exist because they wanted me to go away. That kind of got slapped out of existence. But it's so interesting because I just think you should stay hopeful. And I watched the interview of me, and it's like, I'm the way I used to be was so much. I'm still a lot now, but it was too much. And it was my Star Wars. So